I guess I did fire you and Jordan, and I told you, you know, if you'd pay attention and you listened to me, I could get a
He
show.
was the quick-witted wild-eyed, an endlessly hilarious fan favorite of one of television's biggest automotive shows, a highly skilled mechanic whose abilities were matched only by his knack for making millions of viewers laugh every single week. He was the guy you wanted to grab a beer with, the guy who could fix your engine and tell you a story that would leave you in stitches. He was Tom Smith, a lovable lunatic from the Fast and Loud era of Gas Monkey Garage, and then, almost overnight, he was gone. No grand farewell episode, no heartfelt goodbye on screen, just an empty space in the garage, where one of its most unique personalities used to be. For years, the official story was a simple one, but the whispers among fans told a different tale, a story of betrayal, of public humiliation, and of a simple act of kindness that allegedly cost a man his career. So, what really happened to Tom Smith? The truth, as it often is far more complex, and ultimately, more inspiring than you might think. This is the story of how a fan-favorite mechanic was cast out, branded a troublemaker, and left to fend for himself. It's a story of professional turmoil, personal struggle, and the incredible, resilient journey of a man who simply refused to be broken. This is the heartbreaking tragedy and triumphant comeback of Tom Smith. To understand the shockwave that Tom Smith's departure sent through the fan community, you have to remember just how much of a standout he was during the roaring success of Fast and Loud. When the show premiered in 2012, it was an instant phenomenon. At its center were the flashy, fast-talking Richard Rawlings and his master, mechanic, Aaron Kaufman. But the soul of the show, the guys who turned rusty dreams into gleaming high-octane reality, were the mechanics on the garage floor. And among them, Tom Smith was a supernova of personality. He wasn't just another wrenched, he was the court jester, the master of the one-liner, and the guy who brought a much-needed dose of levity to the high-pressure world of custom car building. His dynamic with his partner in crime, Jordan Butler, was legendary. Together, they were the show's resident pranksters, and their antics provided some of the most memorable moments in the show's history. Whether he was souping up a beer cooler for a drag race or cracking wise under the hood of a classic, Tom had a magnetic energy that was impossible to ignore. Fans didn't just respect his skill, they adored his spirit. He felt authentic in the world that often seemed scripted, but behind the TV persona was a man whose Misfit label had been earned through a lifetime of experience. Born in Ohio and raised in Georgia, Tom's journey was anything but easy. He was a bundle of raw energy. From the start, in a story he's often told, his youthful exuberance got the better of him when, at the age of 10, he saved up enough money to buy his first car, a 1973 Pontiac Grand Ville, and promptly crashed it into a police car while joyriding, a dramatic, almost cinematic anecdote that seemed to foreshadow the rebellious, anti-authoritarian streak that would become his trademark. This was the Tom Smith that audiences fell in love with, a brilliant mechanic with a comedian's timing and a history of hilarious misadventures. While some sources have referred to him as an ACE-certified mechanic, he was, above all, a true professional who could hold his own with the best in the business. But he was also the guy who despised a finished gremlin project so much that he built a makeshift boat on top of it and drove it into a lake, watching his hard work sink with a mix of disappointment and defiant glee. He was a paradox, a highly skilled expert with the soul of a punk rock anarchist. He wasn't just a cast member on Fast and Loud, he was its comedic, troublemaking heart. And that's why, when that heart was unceremoniously ripped out, nobody could quite believe it. The day it all came crashing down reportedly began not with a bang, but with an act of compassion. The story, which has since become the stuff of reality TV legend, centers on a moment that should have been a footnote in the show's history. Instead, it became the catalyst for a professional catastrophe. In 2014, a fan of Fast and Loud who was living with cystic fibrosis visited Gas Monkey Garage. His dream was simple: to see the famous garage and maybe get a picture with one of Richard Rawlings's prized cars. Tom Smith and Jordan Butler were there. Seeing the fan, they decided to make his day and allowed him to pose for a photo next to Rawlings's personal Rolls-Royce. It was a small gesture of kindness, but in the high-stakes environment of Gas Monkey Garage, this act of goodwill was apparently seen as a major transgression. The shop manager reportedly confronted them harshly, and it's been said that Richard Rawlings himself was furious. This is where the accounts of what happened diverge. Tom, never one to back down, allegedly responded to the confrontation with some choice, disrespectful language. He saw a sick fan being disrespected, and his protective, anti-authoritarian instincts kicked in. He stood up for what he felt was right. The fallout was swift and brutal. Within hours, Tom Smith and Jordan Butler, two of the show's most popular figures, were fired. The news shocked the fan community. Why would Rawlings fire two popular mechanics over something so seemingly minor? Publicly, Rawlings's camp painted a picture of two employees who had become unmanageable, citing their constant pranks and disruptive antics as bad for the garage's work climate. They were essentially labeled troublemakers. But for Tom and Jordan, the narrative was entirely different. They felt the punishment was wildly disproportionate to the crime. In their eyes, they were being punished for an act of human decency, and the public nature of the dismissal was a profound humiliation. One moment, they were beloved television personalities. The next, they were unemployed. The tragedy wasn't just about losing a job. It was about the cold collision of human decency with corporate reality. The public firing sent a message. In the world of Gas Monkey, there was no room for misfits who didn't play by the owner's rules. Just when fans thought the story couldn't get any more dramatic, a new layer of intrigue began to surface. As the dust settled, a question started bubbling up in online forums and social media. What if the whole thing was fake? This popular fan theory, which persists to this day, suggests that the entire firing, the confrontation, the public humiliation, the dramatic exit may have been a brilliantly staged piece of television drama designed to launch us. For many, the evidence seemed too compelling to ignore. The biggest piece of the puzzle was Richard Rawlings himself. Shortly after Tom and Jordan were fired, it was announced they would be starring in their own Discovery Channel show, Misfit Garage, and who was listed as an executive producer, none other than Richard Rawlings. This revelation was a bombshell. Why would a boss who was furious with his troublemaker employees turn around and give them their own TV show, one he would personally profit from? It seemed like a massive contradiction. Rawlings was also the landlord for the new shop, Fired Up Garage, giving him significant financial and creative investment in his supposed rivals. Suddenly, the heartbreaking tragedy looked less like a spontaneous event and more like a calculated business move. The feud between Gas Monkey and the newly formed Fired Up Garage became a central theme of Misfit Garage. Rawlings would frequently appear on the spin-off, often in an antagonistic role, to taunt the crew and fuel the on-screen drama. It was a perfect feedback loop, and it all stemmed from the bad blood of the original firing. Even the name of the new shop felt like a theatrical jab. Tom had said that as a kid, he'd always wanted to own a garage called F&U Garage. The more TV-friendly Fired Up Garage kept the defiant spirit, with its initials fluidly seen as a direct message to their former boss. The whole setup felt a little too perfect. This ambiguity adds a darker layer to Tom's story. If the firing was staged, it means the humiliation he endured was part of a script. It complicates his role as a simple victim and turns him into a player in a much larger, more cynical game, blurring the lines between reality and television. But that wasn't the end of his story. In a strange twist, getting fired may have been the beginning of a new chapter, one that would cement Tom Smith's legacy not as a sidekick, but as a leading man. As Tom himself would later reflect, being fired from Gas Monkey might have been the best thing that ever happened to him. That new path was Misfit Garage. Premiering on October 13, 2014. Misfit Garage was built on rebellion. The premise was powerful, two fired mechanics, Tom Smith and Jordan Butler, team up with another former Gas Monkey employee, Scott McMillan, and a rival mechanic, Thomas Weeks, to launch their own shop. They called it Fired Up Garage, and their mission was to take on the Goliath that was Gas Monkey. The show was an immediate hit because it was the antithesis of the slick, corporate feel of Fast and Loud. Misfit Garage was raw, chaotic, and gloriously dysfunctional. The garage was a pressure cooker of strong personalities, and the show was defined by on-screen arguments and last-minute fixes that felt incredibly real. At the heart of this beautiful mess was Tom Smith. Freed from the shadow of Richard Rawlings, his personality was on full display. He was no longer just the comic relief. He was the hilarious, wild-card soul of the entire operation. His over-the-top stories and unwavering passion for cars drove the show. He even revealed a hidden talent as an artist, creating large-scale drawings for friends. The show ran for multiple successful seasons, a testament to the cast's chemistry. However, the chaos that made for great TV also took its toll. The cast was a revolving door, with founding partners Scott McMillan and Jordan Butler eventually leaving. Butler's departure in 2014 was reportedly due to disagreements over the shop's direction, and Scott McMillan left to focus on his own successful business, Scott Rod's Garage. Through it all, Tom Smith was the constant. He had gone from being a misfit in someone else's garage to being the king of his own. He took a public firing and spun it into a resounding success, proving that the very qualities that made him an outcast were the exact qualities that made him a star. Like all good things, the wild ride of Misfit Garage eventually came to an end. After the final season aired in 2018, the show quietly faded away without an official cancellation announcement, leaving fans wondering what happened. And just as the show vanished, its biggest star, Tom Smith, seemed to step away from the public eye. But Tom Smith didn't disappear, he evolved. He didn't chase another network TV deal. Instead, he marched to the beat of his own drum, crafting a life that was authentic to him. His first and most enduring love, besides his family, has always been comedy. Even during his TV years, Tom was moonlighting as a stand-up comedian. After the show ended, he leaned into this passion more heavily, performing live comedy sessions online and proving his quick wit was the genuine article, and he never left the car world behind. Through his Facebook page, Tom Smith the Car Guy, he has continued to share his automotive life with his followers. It's an unfiltered glimpse into his world, videos from the shop floor, photos of projects, and the same classic Tom humor. According to his social media, he's been working at shops like Dallas Customs and Classics, focusing on hot rods and becoming an expert in installing air conditioning in classic cars. Perhaps the most telling part of Tom's post-TV life is the work he does that has nothing to do with cars or comedy. Alongside his wife, he has poured time and energy into helping animals, specifically rescuing and transporting dogs in need. His social media often showcases this compassionate side of the man known for his wild on-screen antics. There have been tantalizing hints of a return. In late 2023, Tom reunited with Richard Rawlings for a Beer 30 segment on the Gas Monkey YouTube channel, where the two reminisced about their complicated history, suggesting old wounds may have started to heal. While a full-time return to TV remains uncertain, it's clear Tom is doing things on his own terms. Tom Smith's journey has been a roller coaster of public highs and painful lows, but through it all, his spirit has remained unbroken. He is a testament to the power of resilience and staying true to yourself. What are your favorite Tom Smith moments from either Fast and Loud or Misfit Garage? What do you think about the controversy surrounding his firing? Let us know in the comments below. The story of Tom Smith is not a simple tragedy. It's a complex saga about the realities of fame, the blurry line between television and truth, and the power of an authentic personality. He was a man publicly fired over a disputed incident, only to have that downfall become the subject of widespread speculation. He was cast as a misfit and a troublemaker, yet he took those labels and wore them as a badge of honor, building a new venture that was even more aligned with his true character. He faced professional humiliation, the chaos of running a business, on camera, and the quiet fading of the spotlight. Yet, he never lost his sense of humor or his passion for his craft. He traded television studios for comedy club, stages, and social media, connecting with his fans more directly than ever. He reminded everyone that his legacy isn't just in the cars he's built, but in the laughter he's created and the quiet acts of kindness he performs when no cameras are rolling. Tom Smith's journey is the ultimate underdog story. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes getting fired can be the best thing that ever happens to you. He proved that you don't need to fit into someone else's mold to be successful. Sometimes, the greatest strength you have is the very thing that makes you a misfit. Tom embraced it, and in doing so, he didn't just bounce back, he fired up his own destiny.